welcome. You're watching Business Today TV. I'm Sakshi Batra, and this is a fresh and new edition of BTS. That's Behind the Scenes, a show where we share a sneak peek into the latest issue of the Business Today magazine with all our viewers. And joining in today on the show with me, I have Mr. Saurabh Majumdar joining in. He's the editor of Business Today. Also, Anand Adhikari joins in, managing editor. Arokesh Bhattacharya, also the managing editor of the Business Today magazine, here with us. Welcome, gentlemen, and thank you so much for taking the time out for this discussion. Well, congratulations to all of you on this spectacular anniversary issue. For our viewers, I wanted to just let you know I have the issue in my hand. This is the 31st anniversary special edition, and the focus of this issue is Mission 2047 and the road to India at 100 as well. And a lot of exciting things to really discuss on this issue. So, Saurabh, let me kickstart this discussion with you first. Well, first time the cover image has been used by using the artificial intelligence. It shows Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google. And this issue was also launched by Finance Minister at the Business Today Budget Roundtable as well. Help me understand, what can really one expect from this mammoth over 300-page issue?
Yes, Sakshi. Let me first start with the cover itself. As you can see, this is an AI-generated avatar of Sundar Pichai, who's the CEO of Alphabet and Google. And we have an exclusive interview with Sundar, where he has spoken extensively about AI and what the AI future holds and the opportunities for India. So we thought for the anniversary issue, it would be a nice, interesting twist to have an AI generated image of Sundar rather than a photograph. And that I'm happy to see has gone down very well with the readers. We are getting excellent feedback on the cover itself. Coming to the issue itself, Sakshi, this is the 31st anniversary issue of Business Today magazine. But it is also a very good time to take stock of where India is headed. We have just celebrated last year India at 75. And as the finance minister and the prime minister have said, this is the beginning of India's journey into Amrit Kal, where good things are supposed to happen to India, and India can rightfully take and stake its claim in the world stage. So we have got a galaxy of fantastic writers, the topmost names in the world of business and policy, to write in this magazine issue about what they think can be done, and how India can really stake its claim as a leading global force in these next 25 years as we march on to India at 2047. So the broad theme of this issue is Mission 2047, the road to India at 100. So that is the context under which this entire issue has been put together. And including Sundar's interview is in the context of the broad future outlook of India and the Indian economy.
Absolutely, and very, very exciting to read all of this. But what's also very interesting is that there's not one cover, but as I was there in the last anniversary issue as well, several more covers have been included. If you could talk a little bit more on that, and especially the sectors that we are going to be focusing on, and the kind of heavy lifting that some of the sectors will be doing to take India to that $5 trillion mark as well.
So yes, Sakshi, you're right. It's a multi-cover edition, as most of our special issues are. And that's what adds a lot of weight, quite literally, to the issue as well. Now we have the manufacturing as one of the key drivers of the growth path going forward. And as you well know, and you have covered it extensively in your interviews for BTTV, that manufacturing is one of the main themes for this government to take India forward with PLI and a host of other initiatives which this government is taking. So manufacturing is one of the covers we have put out. Second one is, of course, the banking story, where the bank balance sheets have been cleaned up. They are now ready. Credit growth is really growing very rapidly because, and in fact, that's a challenge also in some cases for the banks. Then there is, of course, the market story. The markets is always a story in every issue because the way in which the markets have moved last year and now, the kind of global headwinds which the markets are also witnessing and, have to sort of brace against. Then there is IT. Now, one thing I want to mention in this particular issue, Sakshi, if you see most of
Yeah.
the columns and most of the stories, the common one big theme is digital India and the IT story. Not just in
Mm.
terms of IT services and all of that, which is also, of course, being
Sure.
talked about, but it is about digital India. So every single segment we have talked about or the columnists have written about has this digital and tech piece as this underpinning to it. So I think that is very, very significant. And of course, there is the startup ecosystem, which one cannot miss. India is the
Sure.
third largest
Sure.
startup ecosystem in the world. So I think these are the 4 5 key heavy lifters which are expected to take India to 2047.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for those opening comments, Saurav. Let me just take this discussion across now to Anand Adhikari, who's written extensively and who's covered a lot of columns here too. A lot of financial giants like Keki Mistry, the CEO and Vice Chairman of HDFC Limited, Amitabh Chaudhary, MD and CEO Axis Bank, Naina Lal Kidwai, former chairperson of HSBC, all have contributed to this 31st anniversary special issue. And that's why it makes a lot of, interesting insights that one can draw from these big heavyweights of the industry and India Inc. as well. I want to understand from you, Anand, that any important trends or insights that you have drawn from the articles that they have contributed in, and how do they really see India at 100?
Thank you, Sakshi. Just to take it forward, from Saurav, like Saurav said, broad theme is India 2047. Now, just to give you some perspective, India's GDP, by 2047 will be around, 26 trillion US dollar. Now, today from 3 trillion to 26 trillion is almost like 9 times.
Yes.
India's per capita income, which today is around $1,000, per annum, that will go up to 15,000, per annum. So imagine 7 times growth in per capita, 9 times growth in the GDP. Imagine the kind of impact that will have, in the society, in the industry, and in the economy. Now, coming back to, and I'm sure the financial services there will play a big role. KK Mistry, there's one point which he mentioned about, home affordability in India. And he gave example, 25 years back, to buy a modest home in, let's say, in a 10 or 12 big cities of India, a person needed 20 times his or her, annual income. Now that has
Right.
gone down, in 25 years to some 3.2 times. I'm sure this ratio will go down massively by 2047.
Okay.
And that means more homes, more steel, more cement, and this is the kind of consumption that will happen in the industry. Then I'll keep it on the MSME part, the credit penetration, in the MSME sector. Now, today if you see the entire MSME sector, there are some 63 million, MSMEs, and they contribute around 20% to India GDP. But if you look at the credit penetration, I think it's only 15 to 20%. And the entire credit is around, which they need is 70 lakh crore. And put that 70 lakh crore in the total outstanding credit of banking industry today, which is around 122 lakh crore. So there's a huge, demand for credit. Okay, but the banking sector is meeting only a part of it, 15 to 20%. And both Amitabh and Naina, I was reading their column, and they wrote about the need to shift away from bank-driven system to maybe a bond or a debt kind of a thing. So today, if you see, 70% of the need of the banking sector is met. The industry's need is met through the banking sector. In US, it's around 30-40%. So we have to shift from a bank-driven system to a more debt market or bond market kind of a system where the corporate can go out and raise money, and not come to banks.
Sure.
I'm sure in the next 25 years, a lot will happen on the business side, and we'll have more global capital here in India.
Absolutely. That's a very important takeaway, Anand. So thank you for giving us that insight. We look forward to, read more insights into the articles too. But, there's also this feature on banks at 2047. So tell us more about it. How can banks really spur India's great leap forward amid several innovations that are really taking place and are underway in the entire banking and the financial industry? We're looking at the entire innovations being led by the digital banking fintechs as well, and the need for banks to really reimagine themselves. How do we really see all of that panning out till 2047?
So before going forward, let's go back, let's say 30, 40 years or maybe 20, 30 years back.
Right.
We used to go to branch, withdraw cash, we used to sign check, to make payments. Now today, if you see, I mean, and over the years, we have seen last 20, 30 years, we got ATMs, we got net banking, we got app banking, checks are out. Today you have UPI, instant payment, via QR code and all. And tomorrow we will have CBDC, and hopefully that is catch tomorrow. The kind of changes which people are talking in the banking industries is like a metaverse kind of a thing, where we will have our digital avatars and we will go to a digital or metaverse kind of a branch and do all our needs. I mean, that's the maybe 15, 20 years away. Nobody has clue how things will pan out. But there are three broad areas that will define banking. Maybe let's say in the immediate future, 5 to 10 years. One is the personalization of banking. The way we use Netflix or Spotify, and the kind of personalization we see it there. So big focus in the next 5, 10 years, on the personalization of banking. Second is the use of AI and machine learning. Now, if you see the kind of impact this Chat GPT is making, or what the Chat GPT is capable of. Tomorrow you'll have chatbots almost behaving like humans. I mean, you will give a query and you'll get the answer. Even today they have a standard queries and you get very standard answers. But tomorrow you'll have a chatbot with AI, ML, and you'll get a very precise answer, from a chatbot. And third, and which is a big theme next 20, 30, 40 years, that is the ESG element. Banks will have to be more conscious of their duty to the environment, the focus on governance and social and other issues. So broadly, these are 3, 4 issues which I think will define banking in the immediate future, and longer term we'll have a metaverse kind of virtual bank.
Absolutely. It'll be very exciting to see how this entire technology based banking really unfolds in front of us, with metaverse, AI, chat GPT, all of those technologies really powering the way, and also simplifying the way we bank on a day-to-day basis as well. Let me just now move across to Alokesh Bhattacharya, who's also with us on this panel. Alokesh, you covered the Business Today C4 Business Confidence Index this time around in the issue. We have seen the way economies worldwide have actually faced a roller coaster of a ride so far in this last year. But, looking at the current quarter, what does the India Inc. feel as to the way business environment is unfolding now?
Sakshi, the way you look at data tells you different stories depending on different angles when you look at it, right? So if you see the latest edition of the Business Confidence Index, which is basically for the quarter October to December. So, the confidence index is built on what businesses experienced in the previous quarter and what they are projecting for the next quarter. So it's a combination of these two things, right? So in the October to December quarter, the index overall fell, a little bit. So it fell to 51.2, 51.4 from 52.5 in the previous quarter. Now, if you think about it, if you look at the last 4 quarters of the calendar year 2022, then the BCI has been moving up and down every quarter. So it moved up in January to March, then it fell in April to June, moved up again in July to October, July to September, and again slipped. So it would be like like a valley of peaks and troughs. But the interesting point is that in each of these 4 quarters, the index maintained a position of a value of above 50. Why is that significant? If you look at the 3 years prior, right, you look at all the 12 quarters between the calendar years 2019 and calendar year 2021, those 12 quarters, the index never crossed 50 even once. Okay. Comparatively, even though we've moved up and down, the index has actually stayed above 50 all through the year 2022. Okay, so that actually tells us that despite all the macro problems and the geopolitical tensions and inflation worries, right? Indian businesses are still actually quite confident about doing business in India. They see
Hmm.
conditions improving, they see demand conditions improving, they see economic conditions improving. There are a
Hmm.
couple of worry spots, but overall, it's a positive sign. You know that while our GDP growth remains among the highest in the world, at least among major countries,
Hmm.
our businesses also are actually feeling the same way about
Okay.
and sentiment is a very big determinant of how business
Sure.
does and where they invest, right? So
Sure.
it's a good.
Okay, but what about the next quarter? This quarter will also reflect some of the sentiments that may be drawn in from the budget 2023-24 as well. And but this also comes right ahead of some of those fears of recession and the continuous layoffs that we've been seeing in the tech world. Trickling in into India as well, in some of the startup world as well. How does the next quarter really look?
Actually, you've hit the nail right at the top. The thing is that if you look at the index in a slightly more detailed manner, there are five
Hmm.
parameters to it. There's the economic
Hmm.
conditions and financial conditions for your business, etc.
Hmm.
There are two parameters in which the businesses are not confident. They were not confident in the previous quarter, and they are not confident about those two parameters for the next quarter either, right? And those two
Okay.
parameters are hiring conditions and
Hmm.
profitability. Now, profitability is a bit of a surprise because companies have been generating good profits in
Yes.
recent times, but probably not as
True.
much as the businesses themselves expect. But hiring conditions also is a worry spot for companies because, like you rightly said, especially tech companies, IT companies have been laying off a lot of people in recent times. That is
Hmm.
playing on the minds of a lot of the industry simply because why do you lay off people? You lay off people when there is less demand for what
Sure.
you provide, right? And most of our IT companies provide services for other countries, for companies in the developed nations, and that is why their demand is coming down. Even though demand conditions in India are not slowing down, at
Yeah.
they are
Yeah.
more or less okay. But
Hmm.
in developed nations, which is where most of our IT companies operate, their demand conditions are falling because companies
Sure.
over there are not very confident of spending too much on IT at this point when there are more important worries to worry about, right?
Hmm.
So that is why the the specter really of employees getting laid off might continue during the next quarter as well.
Okay. Okay. Understood that. Well, thank you so much, Alokesh, for giving us all those insights too. Saurav, let me come back to you for the summing up of this entire discussion that we've done, and also to give us any more insights that we've missed out so far from this mammoth issue.
I just wanted to lay the context of when this issue is coming out, right? It is coming out at a time when the budget has just been announced. And if you see the contours of the budget, it is clearly a budget which is, fiscally prudent, more importantly. It is also not, despite it being an pre-election year, it has stayed
Yes.
away from freebies. And that's become a big talking point where the finance minister is being congratulated for what she has done. So
Sure.
therefore, I think this particular budget also is in sync with what we are saying in the issue, that it is actually a roadmap for India at 100. This is not a government which believes in doing things right now and just putting money in the hands of the people or etc. This government has constantly been saying that what we want to do is to empower and create the infrastructure. And if you see the infrastructure spending, and we've been discussing this in the budget conclaves, etc., it's massive, and it's a roadmap for the future, which is where digit and there's also a lot of emphasis on green, the energy transition, green economy,
Sure.
digitization, startups, and of course infrastructure. So if you see, these are the clear themes, and manufacturing. So these are the 4 or 5 key themes we have chosen, and I'm glad to
Yeah.
say that these are the 4 or 5 key themes which the budget has also reflected. So which is what I wanted to put in context, that this is right coming at the right time when the India at 100 sort of roadmap is also being laid out by the government.
Absolutely, a very, very timely issue. We've been talking about the beginning of the Amrit Kal, and the finance minister, right at the beginning of her speech, talked about this budget being the first one in the Amrit Kal as well. And therefore, the focus is on how will India really pan through these 25 years as well. But thank you so much, Saurabh, Alokesh, and Anand, for sharing with us all those insights as to what can one really expect from this issue. I really urge all our viewers to please go out there. This issue is already out on the stand, so please do grab your copies, because this will give you massive insight into a whole host of sectors, the way the business environment is really shaping up, and what can you really expect from India over the next 2 or 3 decades. And that'll be a very important insight. So many thanks for joining us, but do stay tuned on to Business Today TV for a whole lot more that's coming up right up next on your screens.